Welcome, fans, to the 53rd episode of Changeover Chat, presented by Sportmaster Sports Surfaces. I'm your host, Randy Master. Today's guest hardly needs an intro because if you don't recognize her, you may want to check your tennis IQ today. As a player, she rose to her highest ranking of number 8 in doubles and number 67 in singles in 1989. She later became the first African American female and youngest person to ever become the president and CEO of the USTA. She is author of the recently published book, Own the Arena, Getting Ahead, Making a Difference, and Succeeding as the Only One. Please welcome Katrina Adams.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
I am doing well, and I'm looking forward to talking about the book. I finished it. Um, we can talk how I might get a copy. I read the ebook, but would love one of those back there, if possible. The first thing that comes to mind, Katrina, as I read the book, is that you really tied a lot of kind of autobiographical material and anecdotes and fun stories from your career to date in the boardroom, on the tennis court as a kid, and tied it into the lessons that you've learned and you were trying to convey to readers of the book. Is that somewhat accurate?
You got it spot on. So it obviously resonated with you and did exactly what I was hoping it would do.
That's great. So starting with the first, I thought it was great how you started the book. You were heading down to the entrance to the court, center court at Arthur Ashe Stadium. It was a trophy ceremony between Naomi and Serena in that big final. Naomi looked like she was going to comfortably win it in two sets. I'm sure that you go down there every time it looks like there could be an ending right there. So you're walking down the corridor. You just go into a bathroom, check your hair, check your makeup, what anybody would do when they're going on to that big stage. And then all of a sudden, as you're getting closer and closer to the court, you hear this roar or some sort of a noise that you weren't expecting. Can you describe the feelings and kind of quandary that you were going through as you heard those sounds?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I mean, it was a set and a break for Osaka at the time. So, it's time to make my way down because it looks like she's going to finish the match. But, when I'm underneath the stadium in the hallways, there was this thunderous roar that I'd never heard of before or experienced and could feel it. And I'm going, what is going on? And I saw a couple of people running down the hall and saying, Serena just got a game taken away. And I was like, what? I'm like, I just walked. I was like, what could have possibly happened? And so, when I walked courtside in the corner, you can see people standing in the corner. I kind of eased in and sat down to try to get an understanding of what was happening, because you really couldn't, if you're on the court level or in the stadium, you couldn't really see or hear what was happening.
Right.
So I actually went inside to take a peek at, see if I could see a replay as to what was going on and what had occurred. And I saw what happened. So I went back out and just tried to take it all in and feel what everyone else was feeling or experiencing. It was a very different situation. I hadn't been in that situation before. And then Serena held, and then Naomi served it out to, served out the match.
Yeah.
And then at that point, the stadium's going crazy again. And just trying to say, okay, what did I miss? What went on? I'm still kind of clueless. And now I've, people are trying to tell me from both sides of my head or ears what transpired. And now I'm trying to get my thoughts together. And as now the presentation is about to happen and going out on the court. So
Yeah.
it was a very different feeling. As I said, I didn't know what was going on, and your heart starts to race because, with safety issues, I don't know if there's a safety issue that's occurred,
Yeah.
what's going on. So I walk out and was relieved that it was nothing that serious. And again, it was still much later in the day or that night to even see and hear from the commentators, what was going on the court.
Yeah, and I remember watching it at home, Katrina, and same feelings. I was like, is this, is this really happening? And then when Naomi was crying after the match, Serena consoles her. I knew exactly what you meant, Katrina, when you took the microphone from Tom Rinaldi to congratulate them, and you said to Serena, perhaps not the finish we were looking for today. I knew exactly what you meant,
Yeah,
and as you,
why would I make it to seem like, about winning or losing?
I,
That would just be ridiculous, particularly being a former player. I mean, I know what that would do. And, I was fortunate that Naomi knew what I meant. Um, and most people knew, but, there's a world out there that wanted to take it, negatively.
yeah, and again, I was commiserating with you because again, after you saw that, I'm sure Katrina's going to walk up there and say, actually, Serena, I was hoping you would win this match. So, but I know that that was a tough time for you because you were facing all types of criticism. I feel like you talked to everybody, Carlos Ramos and Sasha, who was Naomi's coach, and Naomi, um, and even though you didn't do a whole lot wrong, if anything, I think you didn't you feel the need to kind of clear the air with all those people and move on.
I only felt I needed to clear the air because I got slammed in Twitter sphere,
Yeah.
and then the next day, being on ESPN, they allowed me to come on and kind of clear the air and supporting, um, what my intentions were. And I didn't really think it was that big of a deal until, I was on the ESPN set, and, unfortunately they were uh, supporting me because they knew I didn't mean any ill will behind it or ill intent.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I got a call from CBS this morning wanting to have me on the show on Tuesday morning. I'm like, wow, this thing is still going. I mean, this is, but
Right.
at the end of the day, I know what I said, I know what I meant, and
Yeah.
opened the book. The book was written in 2019. It
Yeah.
was supposed to be released in 2020, so it was still very fresh
Right.
when I did it, and I was a little nervous that when it got pushed, to 2021, if it was going to be relevant. And then fortunately, they played 2 weeks prior to the release at the Australian Open. So I think every time that they play each other, people are going to be talking about that moment and what it meant for both of their careers, as that was Naomi's first major title.
Yeah. Well, it brought me in for sure. That was the that was the right opening. So let's go back to when you were a child. You talk a lot about your experience growing up playing on the public courts of Chicago with all of your coaches and friends, all of them being African American. That was a little earlier than when I started my junior career. I grew up in Richmond, Katrina, and a little bit after when you were growing up in Chicago playing junior tennis. But quite frankly, I was on the other side of what you grew up in. I went to a club. All of my tennis friends were obviously white, and I didn't get a whole lot of exposure to African American players. And we actually had a tournament in Richmond. It was called the Southeastern Open, and it was played at a place called Battery Park. You know Battery Park. And that was where all of our African American, uh, you know, players that were growing up playing junior tennis with all the white players, they would invite us over to their big Southeastern tournament. It's a one-day event. And I think after they did that, then we go to tournaments in Bird Park, and everyone blended together, if that's the right word. And I think their willingness to bring us over and have a tournament with all these kids from all different backgrounds, I think really helped. Now, the reason I'm saying that is in your book, it really reminded me of what I grew up with, but on the other side of what you grew up with. Does
No, I
that
saw
give you some context?
your Arthur Ashe competition racket up in
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
I know that
Well,
racket.
there it is.
Um, yeah, I know Richmond very well, and I think when what you explain is not any different to a lot of kids' upbringings today, depending on where you grow up. I mean, your society is what it is, but the important thing is that people are learning about different cultures, and what you said is really how black tennis was able to integrate into white tennis in so many areas. But it was about us inviting you. It
Yeah,
wasn't you inviting us,
right.
which is unfortunate. And I think after the two sides come together, then people realize that, oh, this is just tennis. This is just other kids that are playing.
Yeah,
Let's now invite them to play in our tournaments or at our clubs. And Richmond is proud. They have a proud, rich history of tennis with Arthur Ashe and Rodney Harmon and others.
yeah,
In the Battery Park, I've been to Bird Park, so I know exactly the locations that you're referring to, and seeing the communities merging and coming together.
yeah,
It's like that around the country in a lot of areas, and I think it's just a matter of if we look at people as human beings playing a sport, and we're all out there to have fun first of all, and to compete and learn from one another to get better, then this place would be a much better world.
yeah. Well, one of the, as I go through the book and pick out certain parts that were memorable, at least in my perspective, when you became president and CEO of the USTA, you made a comment, and I think it was right around when you became president. Said after 10 years on the board, I realized that people outside the USTA family truly didn't understand who we were or what we did for the sport. And then you went on to say maybe those inside the family didn't know exactly who we were and and what we stood for. I know you said that somewhat tongue in cheek, but what did that mean?
Wasn't tongue in cheek. I grew up knowing that I was playing USCA tournaments and I had a USCA ranking. I knew I played on USCA teams, summer teams where I was fortunate enough to be one of the top juniors, and we had teams that they supported go and play national tournaments. I know that if I didn't have that support, I wouldn't have been able to travel around the country and play national after national throughout the summer. And I was on their collegiate team. So the collegiate team allowed me to start to get a WTA ranking by playing the pro circuit events, the the challengers and the pro circuit events.
Yeah,
So that's what I knew for the USTA. I didn't know about, and plus you're young, so you don't really care as to what else they do. But as you become an adult, it's like, okay, wow, they are really into grassroots. Wow, the programs that I grew up in, the USCA supported them. Oh wow, the USCA has done this. Oh wow, the USCA has a ton of volunteers. Oh yeah, Miss Freebody, Miss Seifert, these people. Oh wow, they're volunteers. USCA is awesome. I want to learn more about it now. So
yeah,
that's how I kind of got into wanting to be more engaged and more involved, and then also be able to be that voice and be that face to share the stories, to bring people closer together, to make them realize that yeah, the USCA is, they're not the big monster that people call them to be. They're
right.
just not. We're here to help people, not push people away.
Yeah,
And I think we do this with we as humans do this no matter what. If you have a bad experience with an individual, you blame the entire organization for that. And there are some bad seeds that are out there that are just, rude or mean or may have had a bad day or what have you, that might have barked at a player upon registration of a tournament. And then the entire organization gets a bad eye because of a situation that you had with someone else.
yeah,
I think that people need to go beyond, get over those. bad experiences and really try to get to understand why someone is having a bad day. And
Yeah.
you never know what happened in their lives that morning, that the night before, could have lost a loved one,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And you're quick to blame, we're quick to point a finger and try to blame. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to kind of clarify within the book.
Yeah. And then, hopefully that same thought process is moving forward within the USTA now. Um, Switching gears a little bit, I thought one of the most ironic parts of this book, and I think you would agree, was when you discussed meeting the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, at Wimbledon. And I think I read it on like the same day of Oprah's interview. And I'm like, that's somewhat ironic. Serena, who is great friends, so there's a tennis theme in here. Serena, who is great friends with the Duchess of Sussex, made a statement, and I'm paraphrasing it a little bit. Um, Basically, she sets an example. Megan teaches me every day how to be truly noble. I know firsthand the sexist and racist institutions and media used to vilify women and people of color and to minimize us and break us down. So very, very strong reaction from Serena about her friend. Um, I There's a lot to this, and we could talk about it for a while now. But did you watch the Oprah interview?
I did. Yeah.
And and what were your thoughts? I guess during the interview, and based on some of the things that she said about some very terrible things that were happening when she was part of the royal family, and then how Serena, our hero in this sport, chimed in.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Meghan and Harry are the only ones that really know what happened and what their experiences were. And Meghan, as a woman of color, I'm pretty sure that the things that she said were true. I don't doubt anything that she said. The experiences that we have, the things that are said under people's breath or outwardly, can be very painful. And when you're put in those positions, you don't think that you're going to be subjective to that type of behavior or comments, etc. So, I feel for Meghan and Harry, what their experiences have been. Um, we as Black people knew that there were going to be challenges with that marriage, bringing a Black woman into the royal family. Um, not so much how they would respond, but how their followers and believers would respond.
Yeah,
And day one, she was chastised and ridiculed, and I just feel bad for them. But um, no different than me being a Black woman and dealing with. I will say it is different, but we all have our experiences, and we've all had to shove things under the rug or shove them off our shoulder and keep walking, because if we allow every comment to affect us, then we can never move forward. We'll always get stopped in our tracks, and never grow and develop. And so, Serena is definitely been at the other end of the stick, with being ridiculed on a daily basis about something, because of the color of her skin. And that's not going to change, unfortunately. There are people out there that just want to always vilify and put Black people down because of the color of our skin. And that's something that I talk about a little bit in the book. And and over the years I may have kind of shoved it off the shoulder, but no longer,
yeah,
because it's not right.
yeah. And you talked a lot, Katrina, in the book about overseeing the president's suite at the U.S. Open and how important the president's suite is, not just to serve lobster rolls and champagne and all the incredible food you have in there and bring in actors and actresses. Sometimes I like to see that if I'm ever in there. But at the same time, you really it surprised me that you spent this much time on it, but then I got it that you oversaw it and you needed it and you wanted it to look very much like it was diverse and inclusive, and it looked like you wanted tennis to look. So that's one thing I wanted to ask you about. And then also the side that people don't see about that suite is it's raising a lot of money for a lot of big, important causes within tennis throughout the U.S. Can you talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that you spearheaded for that suite, those big 14 days?
Absolutely. I mean, it is in the book. Each president can run their suite. When you're the president, it's the president's suite.
Right?
We want to, but we do have some things that are in place and making sure that we are inviting certain guests are on our list from the corporate side, from the sponsor side, from the volunteer side. We want to make sure that the volunteers who give so much of their time and energy, year after year, that are serving on multiple committees, have an opportunity to have a day or evening at the President's Suite. We in the past have had our semi-annual meeting during the U.S. Open, so we have 1,000+ people that come in, and so it's a great way of saying thank you to those volunteers.
Yeah.
For me, on the personal and business side of the people that I invited, these are business people that I've had relationships with, or have established relationships with their family, their friends, etc. And I'm Black, so the majority of my family's Black, and the majority of my friends are Black. So it kind of diversified it automatically just because of that. And I don't see it, until we get another Black president, you don't see the suite looking as diverse as I had it for the 4 years there. But the one thing that I recognize is that it was noticed. Everyone talked about it. Everyone who sat on the other side of the stadium noticed it. Media noticed it. Photographers were noticing it. And so it's good to be noticed, but it's not good because that means it stands out that much more.
Yeah. Yeah.
For us to stand out, at least from the rest of the crowd has become more diverse over the years, but it's still not as diverse as it probably could be. But it's an image that we want to say, hey, everyone's welcome, and that's what message that I wanted to get across, is that we're all out here to enjoy tennis and have a great time.
Yeah. And
weren't just friends and family just because they were there. They actually enjoy tennis.
yeah.
That made it that much better.
Yeah. And I won't give anything away. One thing that wasn't allowed in the President's Suite were jeans
Right.
or t-shirt. And you had to quote kick out some pretty well-known people. I'm going to let people who read the book
know that, but you say that over the years, the dress code is definitely relaxed.
Yeah.
There was a time where men had to wear a jacket and tie the entire time. It's 95 degrees out there. And like, come on, we are at a tennis match. Our dining policies were, kind of changed because you want people. I think when we dress a certain way, we carry ourselves a certain way, and you just feel better about yourselves. And so one of the things about the suite is the image that it had, and it's relaxed. I relaxed it, over the 4 years, and I'm not sure where it's going to go going forward since we, since the pandemic. I think things will change of even how it's utilized going forward. But yeah.
Well, to finish, and I'll let you go. I know you've been on a book tour that's probably still going on. But when I looked at this book and when I finished it, I was saying to myself, okay, well, who is Katrina trying to reach here? What's the demographic? And I came up with about 5 or 6, and I think there are probably 5 or 6 or 10 more. But I thought about when people read your book, whether they are a CEO, a child, people struggling with their confidence and self-identity, and people that feel like they are discriminated against, what would you want the takeaway to be? And I guess the question is, what do you want the takeaway to be? But I guess I'm in the ballpark of who you're trying to reach. It seems like anyone could read this book.
Exactly. It's a book for everyone,
Yeah,
men, women, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, no matter what your age is. I think lessons to be learned for those that are just getting into business, those that are already secure in business, those that are already leaders in business. Um, and your tennis enthusiasts to understand how our sport really transfers into business and into the professional lives of many, the
yeah,
life you learn on the court. So it's not just for one group or another, it's really for everyone. And
yeah,
I that everyone finds themselves uh, learning how to own their own arena.
yeah. Well, I sure enjoyed it, and right now I own this arena. It's my man cave. Might be the only place in this house that I actually can own. I think my wife owns the rest of it, but and the kids. But anyway, the book is Own the Arena, Getting Ahead, Making a Difference, and Succeeding as the Only One. Um, where can we find it, Katrina? I Googled it, and there wasn't a place I couldn't find it.
Yeah, you can find if you want, you can just go to my website and click on buy the book. And then it gives you a plethora of places that you can choose from. And that's KatrinaMAdams.com.
Okay.
It is everywhere. So thank you. It's a hardcover. It's an Audible and as well as digital.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Katrina. You've been very kind coming on my show a few times, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy. Appreciate the support.